Okay, so here we go. So we are in Photoshop right now, and what I'm going to ask you to do is to combine 3 photos into one. So since I'm in my rule of thirds folder, I'm going to select images that actually don't have that grid on it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull another photo in. I'll come back here. Why are you way over there? I'll take you. Okay, so take a look what we have. I have the 3 images that are open in my folder, but they're in tab form. Okay, so they're all here. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to combine them together. One of the things at the top here you should notice is this percentage here. So I've got this photo is currently being viewed at 100%, so the full size of the photo. This photo 100%, this 100%. And what I want you to do is I want you to select the smallest of the photos. Okay, so this looks like the smallest of the photos. By the way, for keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to do a Command plus right now. And that'll go large enough so you can see individual pixels. Command minus. Okay, so this is zooming in and zooming out. And when you're working with Photoshop, it can be very helpful. But I'm going to stick with 100%. And I'm just going to pull this photo off for a second. See how I separated this tab from the other 2? And what I'd like to do is I want to put these 3 photos next to one another. So that we stack them horizontally. Okay? To do that, I need to create space for them. I need to enlarge the canvas size because right now the image size is the same size as the canvas size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple the size of the canvas and then bring in those 2 extra elements so they can sit right next to them. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to go up here to Image, Canvas Size, and this little box opens up here. Okay? And with these arrows, if I adjust the size, I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm just going to adjust the width to 10, and your relative, is that right? Let's see, let me try that again. Okay, so what I just did is I enlarged the width to 10. Okay, so I'm going to do Command Z, go back here, Image, Canvas Size. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to take off the relative so I can mark the width. So my width is 5.5, 5.556, so I'll just go 5.5 times 3 is what, like 15 point, 15.60? Okay. Oh, 16.5. Okay, that's good. 16.5. And I'm going to keep the height the same. What I want to do is I want to keep this guy on the right. So I'm going to click this arrow. And so everything's going to push the canvas opening to the left. Do you see that? That's why the arrows are for. So if I click OK, it pushes it over here. Does that make sense? Yeah. Before I didn't touch anything and it just expanded it this way. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over to these other photos. I'm using the selection key, this arrow. I'm just going to drag this photo right on top. Okay? And you notice that this photo's larger. And we know it's larger because we started with the smallest of photos here. So what we're going to do is we're going to shrink this photo to fit into this space. So it looks like my edge here's about right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command T, which is transform. Okay? So if I do Command T, what you notice is this box becomes activated. Okay? I'm going to hold the Shift key down. This is super important. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to pull it in. By holding the Shift key down, I maintain the dimensions of the image. See how she doesn't stretch either horizontally or vertically? So if I take my finger off the shift key, you see what's happening here with the photo? I'm ruining the photo. And there are a variety of students across my 4 classes that ruined a lot of photos that they put on Google Slides because they were doing something like this. I'm going to just do Command Z. I'm going to hold the shift key down, and the proportions are going to stay the same. There we go. It's still activated. To undo the activation, I just go back to my select key here. It's going to say apply. I'm going to say yes. Okay, so there's 2 photos, rule of thirds. I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to bring the puppy in. So here's my puppy. And I'm going to do Command T again. This is off screen a little bit, so I'm going to work on this side. Holding the shift key down. That's still off. I'll do this.
Are you using the arrow keys that's shifted over left and right?
I am. So you saw me move it without doing anything here. If I push the arrow keys once, it only moves a small distance. If I hold the shift key down, it jumps a larger distance. I think it's 5 times. So if you're trying to move something quickly and you don't want to move it around like this, the arrow keys work really well for me. You should try it. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to go back to my selection key, apply, and there it is. So I've taken 3 photos from one compositional element and placed it in here. Almost done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write right across these images. Okay, so I'm going to go to the text function here, and I'm going to click once. And I'm going to type in rule of thirds. I'm going to do it in caps. All right. And so what I could do right now is I could highlight this. I want to enlarge this, by the way. I want to enlarge the words. What I could do is I could select, I could come up here to the font, and I could mess around with that. Or if I go back here, I could do the exact same thing I did with the photos in reverse. So I'm on the select key here, or tool. I'm going to go Command T again. It's transform. Hold the shift key down again, and I'm just going to pull this open. I'm just going to write real large right across all of those photos. We'll center it right there. Click this, apply. And the last 2 things I'm going to do is select. Let's change that to white. See how I did that? I hit the color up here. It didn't work. Command A for select all. Click this again. Select white. OK. There it is. A little bit difficult to read. For now, that's good. I'll show you some effects to make it really pop a little bit more in the future, but I just want to get these basics down. Last thing I would like is let me just show you this. We currently have 4 layers on here. And I'm going to turn off the top layers. Okay. The way that I did it, there's these little eyeballs next to each layer, and it just means you want to look at them or not. If you turn the eyeballs off, it doesn't mean they leave your project. It means they're just not visible at the moment. And sometimes you'll want to do that. If you want to get rid of a layer, all you need is just drag it right down here to the trash. Or I think you can just hit delete on your keyboard. Okay, I'm going to do Command Z, put it back. And then I'm going to turn the opacity down just a little bit. Let's go to like 50. There we go. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier on the eyes. You can still read it. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is File, Save As, and we're going to call that Rule of Thirds. And we're going to save it right back to the Rule of Thirds folder. I'm going to keep it as a PSD. PSD stands for Photoshop Document. The difference between a PSD, file, save as, and what we normally find, not exclusive, but JPEGs are common. So I'm saving it as a JPG file. So just saved as a JPG. Right now we're still looking at the PSD, and with the PSD file we maintain all these layers so we can continue to edit. If I were to open, where is it? The JPEG, you'll see that it's only one layer, so I can't edit this anymore. Okay, so to maintain your ability to edit, save it as a Photoshop document, PSD. It does it by default, so unless you choose a different category, this is it. Okay, so your assignment in class today is to create 6 of these, one for each of your compositional elements. And in doing so, you're going to be going through the process over and over and over again, and ideally you'll become familiar with this. I have just recorded an 11